Well, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is finally Tuesday, the first day in June, and I am Tamika Walker Kelly, your favorite music teacher and president of the North Carolina Association of Educators, NCAE. And this is Tuesdays with Tamika. Now, I already told you that we are going to be having lots of different guests in this second season of Tuesdays with Tamika. And so today I am joined by two special guests. Let me go ahead and bring them up now. We have Wayne County Commissioner Bevan Foster here with us today, and I'm also joined by Wake County Commissioner Matt Calabria here for a discussion on the impact state funding has on local county budgets. So we are so excited to welcome you both, Matt and Bevan, to Tuesdays with Tamika. So thank you for joining me. Matt, do you want to say hello to the people?
Thank you very much for having me. This is a really exciting conversation that we get to have today. And obviously, it's one of our favorite topics. So not just state funding, but what we can do for our educators. So thank you for having me.
Not a problem. And Bevan, you want to say hello to the people?
Hi, just like Matt said, thank you for having me. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to talk about, teachers and, how we can support teachers across North Carolina.
Awesome, awesome. So to our audience, let me just give you a little bit of rundown of what we typically talk about here on Tuesdays with Tamika. Now, if you are a return viewer, you know we talk about all things public education, and we usually talk about things that are happening at the state level. For example, we are all fascinated and waiting anxiously, right, as the budget process ramps up for the state. And so we talk about that at the level of the North Carolina General Assembly because it impacts everybody all over the state, members, educators, parents, families, communities, right? But our commissioners here have to deal with the results of whatever the General Assembly decides to fund or not fund. And many times, you as commissioners, right, are left to guess what the General Assembly will give your county as you try to build your local budgets, which makes it even more difficult. So both of you have a lot of experience in local politics in your respective areas, right here in the center of the state for Matt and on the eastern part of the state for Bevan. And so you've seen the budgeting process from different angles. So I am very interested in hearing your perspectives this evening on how your current budget processes work and what doesn't work for local county governments. And so we'll start with Commissioner Calabria. I would like to start with you. Since you've been a county commissioner for a number of years in Wake now, can you explain like your general process of what happens after money is allocated from the General Assembly? Like how do decisions get made in regard to funding?
Yeah, so it's a really good question because I think we have sort of an unusual set of practices, or we've gotten into an unusual set of practices in the state. Just as a baseline, counties by state law are required to pass our budgets by June 30th of every year. And that's an annual budget that goes to the end to the next June 30th. And with that, we set the tax rate at that vote once a year. And we can only set the tax rate once a year. So there are really very limited ways to increase or decrease revenues once you lock that tax rate in. And so usually in late spring, school systems will submit proposed budgets to the county commissions. County commissions will take a look at that, and the county manager will usually propose a budget. And then ultimately the county commissioners have to pass our budget again by June 30th. Of years in Wake now. So the state used to pass their budget around the same time every year, which was by June 30th. And that's what they're really supposed to do. But that hasn't really been the practice lately. And this year's obviously an example of that. It looks like we're not going to have a budget till the fall. So what happens is we have to pass our budget based on really what's educated guesswork. So we don't know what unfunded mandates there are going to be. We don't know what cuts there might be. We don't know what gaps might be created in the state's budget. So we have to just work with our school system partners to do the best that we can And then ultimately the school system comes back in the fall and amends their budget to kind of true it up with what the state has done or not done, as it may be. And then we kind of figure out things from there. So it creates a little bit of confusion because people don't understand why you have to go back and adjust something that you just did. And I don't think people realize that it's really created by the state context we find ourselves in. And then the other point, a quick point I'll make is, and I think this is maybe even more important, is it risks underfunding our schools because counties can only set that tax rate once a year, which means we can't always find revenues as easily, and we just have to do the best that we can to make sure we anticipate, gaps based on whatever we know at the time, and do the best that we can.
I appreciate you breaking that down for our audience to understand, particularly knowing that, it's important to operate from a budget and knowing that the General Assembly in the last time they were in session did not pass one. So I'm sure that made things a lot more challenging. Commissioner Foster, while the budget in Wayne County is a bit smaller than it is in Wake, the process works similarly in your county. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's basically no different. We have to decide on what we have and not what we think might come. We decided our budget today, and we're working with the funds that we have. We ended up raising taxes. We did do that. We had the lowest taxes in the surrounding county, so we wanted to fund some schools and do some different projects in the future. So we raised taxes. Most people don't like it, but in order to move forward and progress and hopefully do what's right by our students, the teachers, and just our community, period, we have to do what we have to do.
Thank you. And yes, right. We talk about the local governments, the local counties, city councils, things have taken on additional responsibilities because of the lack of the funding from the state. And so now one of the things that you mentioned, Commissioner Calabria, is that we know the fiscal year, that's the year in which we budget our finances to our audience, ends on June 30th. And you also mentioned it doesn't look like the General Assembly will have a budget in place by then. So can you talk a little bit about how the commissioner, how you guys work on making these large budget decisions without knowing exactly how much money you're going to get from the state? I'll start with you, Commissioner Foster.
Well, we work with what we have. I think that's the first thing that you have to do because you don't know what's actually coming from the state. They may do some cuts, they may not. We might get some different money, and throughout the year we make a lot of budget amendments, and that's really the only way that I've known that we've done it. I haven't been a commissioner that long, but that's the process that we're going at it right now because we want to make sure we're able to fund the things that we can fund within house, and then whatever comes down from the state, whatever cuts or money or mandates or anything that comes down, we will adjust from that point on going forward.
Now we know that puts counties in a very difficult position, to be sure. And so, Commissioner Calabria, what, in your opinion, could be changed with the process, either at the state or county level, to make the budgeting process more efficient?
Yeah, so I think there are at least three things the state could potentially do on that level, and then there's some things that the county can do as well. But ultimately, the state holds not all the cards, but most of the cards on this. I think the first thing is to pass a budget on time and to engage in some decision-making discipline. I mean, we're looking to the state for leadership on this, and they're charged with, under the state structure that's been established, they're charged with providing the operating funds for the schools. And so if they can do what they used to do and exercise some schedule discipline, obviously that enables us to be more responsible and specific in a lot of our budget discussions and allocations. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be to the extent that they can foster predictability or multi-year planning. Of course, we're just trying to get 1 year's budget, and that's been difficult of late. But to the extent that we can, provide some multi-year plans about how we might improve things going forward, that would certainly be a big help. And then the third thing is really just more fully or really fully funding our educational needs. again, there's a division of responsibilities there, and the state's supposed to provide 100% of the operating funds. But at least in Wake County, the county provides almost a third of our school system's operating funds, which goes to show you how that division of responsibilities has eroded over time because counties are being called more and more to step into the gap. So by having more funding, then there's a lot less guesswork in terms of what gaps are going to need to be filled, because we kind of know, okay, at least these certain things will be taken care of, and we'll return to the system that was anticipated to begin with. On the county side, obviously, we look to the state for those things, but we just try to do the best that we can to understand where our school board partners are coming from and our school system partners are coming from. I think a lot of it is just about knowledge and building relationships, because then when we can kind of understand the challenges they're facing and our educators are facing, we can better not only tailor our education budget, but think about, okay, how can our human services departments, because that's a big county responsibility, how can our human services departments serve as an adjunct or support our education system in one way or another? So there are lots of opportunities for us to sort of be shock absorbers. So, we all wish we weren't in that position, but, we've got to step into the breach. And so I think it's a lot about trying the best we can to identify the gaps, understand what we might be called to step in and do, and then just do the best we can with the dollars we've got.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. And I will also circle back to some of the things that you said, but I'm going to go to Commissioner Foster. The same question to you. What, in your opinion, could be changed with the process, either at the state or county level, to make the budgeting process much more efficient?
I think working together with your legislators. I mean, from most of our Senate and House members here, we're pretty tight. We talk a lot. We discuss things a lot. We kind of sort of know what's going on as much as they can tell us. But nothing guaranteed. And in the day, we had a question today about student resource officers and nurses. The county pays for a lot of that, and we don't know coming in the future whether the state is going to stop. And if the state stops, we can't stop providing that service. So guess who has to pick up that tab? It's going to be the county. So a lot of issues like that come about, and we have to try to figure out ways of how we're going to pay for it in the future. And what actually the state's going to do. But right now, I really don't know a good way to change the things, because both of our budgets are due at the same exact time. And unless you change that date, then it's gonna always be this way. You know what I mean? If theirs is due by the 30th and ours is due by the 30th, I mean, what can we do? At the end of the day. So just hoping that something works out with those dates. And like you said, like Mr. Calabria, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Like Calabria, holding them to that date and making sure that they stay firm and getting their budget passed, so we can know what's going on, so we can pass our budget.
Thank you so much. And communication is key to this process. So I did want to touch base on to go back to something that you both mentioned. So one of the things is, people don't generally know how important the role of county commissions are in supplementing public school budgets. Many people actually don't even know why they should be advocating for public school budgets in front of their county commissioners. So either one of you can jump in. What are some typical things that county commissioners look at when they talk about funding public schools? I will tell, for our general audience, if you did not know, lots of county commissions fund the local educator supplement for their county. So what are some other things that our educators need to know that our county commissions do for school systems?
I'll let you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy to. I'll start. So I think you hit one of the biggest ones on the head, which is teacher salary supplements. That's obviously a really important thing for everybody. But supporting all sorts of educational initiatives, general operating costs, all the capital side, right? So building schools, renovating schools, making sure that HVAC system isn't breaking down every single day. All those sorts of things are on the building side and renovation side. So we got to make sure we do that and have enough schools to keep up with, in our case, a lot of growth. And then on the operating side, it's really supporting the whole organization. I mean, we put more than $500 million into the school system every year just on the operating side. And it's teacher salary supplement. It's adding personnel, because what the state's done is they have underpaid personnel and they haven't provided enough personnel. So we got to solve both of those problems. When it comes to support personnel, psychologists, counselors, social workers, the county can step into that, or all the counties can step into that breach. We provide, as Commissioner Foster, you mentioned, we provide school nurses in a lot of cases. And so obviously that's been front and center the last year or so, and will continue to be really important. But personnel really of all kinds, making sure that our personnel are adequately paid, making sure that we have the tools, the resources that we need to, allow people to do their jobs in the way that they want to do them. All of that comes to the counties. And then, so basically, if you can think of something that gets funded in the public school system, the county can help with that in one way or another. And then on top of that, you've got things like food security, right? So one of our big pushes was making sure that we have universally free breakfast in some of our most underprivileged schools. So that's something the county can help with. Things like early childhood education, which obviously in some cases goes through our public school system, or is at the very least an adjunct to our public school system. Those are things that county initiatives can really influence as well and can support. So it's sort of, you name it, we can help. But it's sort of like we're that level of government that has a really big impact on our school systems, but a lot of people don't really think of it as exactly as you described.
Commissioner Foster, if you want to jump in.
Okay. Yes, everything that Matt just said, and we have some different little challenges here in Wayne County. We're looking 3 years down the road at how we're going to pay some of our teachers. That's an issue that we're having here, because we have the money now to do it, but if the state doesn't provide that income in the future, we're going to have to figure out how to do that. So working with our school board, working with our teachers, trying to figure out the best way. Also that teacher supplement is a big thing. It's something, I was a city councilman before. It was something that I tried to do for the inner city schools on the city council, provide a teacher supplement for the inner city schools. But now being at the county, trying to up that teacher supplement, because we want to be in competition with other surrounding counties so our teachers don't leave. Pay is a big thing. So those things, it's so many different working parts to it, from, like Matt said, from school nutrition to just anything you can think of going on with school. We have to figure out a way, to get it done, because if the state doesn't bring the money, we have to figure it out. And sometimes it's a hard thing to figure out where that money is actually going to come from. And the hard challenges like we had today with raising taxes, because we want to build schools. We want to do certain things that we haven't been able to do in the last 10, 20 years almost. So we're trying to move this county forward.
Well, thank you both for sharing that with us and really breaking it down, because a lot of what we do here at Tuesdays with Tamika is really sort of demystify politics and the political process for our viewers. And so knowing that, for example, school nurses, right, is a partnership between the school system and the Department of Public Health in your local, right? SROs is a partnership between the sheriff's office and the school system. All of these entities work together. And so that's why it's really important to think of our county commissioners as partners when we talk about funding public education fully across the state, because they are our allies in making sure that we advocate for fully funded public schools at the state level. And so I want to thank you both so very much for the hard work that you are doing in your respective counties, for fighting for the funding that our students and our educators need. And it's really important for you guys to be ambassadors to other county commissioners, because we need more county commissioners like the both of you who understand the importance of public education. So do you have any, I'll start with Commissioner Foster, do you have any last things that you want to say to our audience today?
No, I just like to thank you for having me on. It's been an honor and a privilege, so just thank you.
Awesome. And Commissioner Calabria?
I would just like Commissioner Foster say thank you for having us on, for focusing on these issues in our level of government, because as I said, it often gets overlooked. And thank you and all of NCAE for the work that you do. It's been a huge help having folks as a resource and as a sounding board and a partner in this effort. So really do appreciate everything y'all do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for continuing to work with NCAE in your respective locals and on the statewide level. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard our guests, right? It is important that we continue to advocate at all levels for fully funded public education. But remember, our primary target to make sure that we continue to advocate for is the North Carolina General Assembly. Because if you can't run your household without a budget, they should not be able to run the state without a budget. So make sure that you contact your state representatives and let them know that we want to make sure that they get a budget in place, especially this time around. So I want to, of course, also let you know, and also both of you as commissioners, invite you to our events taking place across the state on June 12th as we close out our We Heart Public Schools tour. In the east, we will be in Greenville in Pitt County, and in the center of the state, we will be in Franklin. There are 4 celebrations happening across the state, all on the same day, June 12th, starting at 11 a.m. And so please go ahead and make sure that you sign up, because we are going to be celebrating public school educators, public school students, and public school parents and community allies at these events. And I heard that out east, there's going to be a fish fry. I can't tell you what they're going to do in Franklin, Commissioner Calabria, but I'm just saying Pitt County is having a fish fry. So I'm just going to make sure I bring my Texas Pete, and we're going to be ready to go. And then also, of course, as you know, to all of my NCAE members, please make sure that you register for Summer Leaders 2021, which will be kicking off in Raleigh and Asheville very soon. All right, so thank you to our guests for being with us today. Remember, it is Tuesdays with Tamika, and if you are not watching this right now, live as we are on right now, don't worry about it. You can share the video with your friends right from the NCAE Facebook page, Twitter, or YouTube channel, so everybody can stay in the know of all the things happening with NCAE. And as you know, as the budget continues to unfold, the House is apparently working on their budget right now, which, goes against the calendar rules, because, the Senate is supposed to go first. But it don't matter who is first in line. It matters that we get a budget done this session. So we will keep you updated. Make sure that you are checking out your education insights that come out on Friday from our awesome GR department. And we will catch you next time on Tuesdays with Tamika. Bye.